Jake Morrison pressed his face against the small window of the transport ship and watched the massive space station grow larger ahead of them. Harmony Point looked like a giant metal flower floating in the darkness, with long arms stretching out in all directions. Each arm had hundreds of lights twinkling like stars. He had never seen anything so beautiful and scary at the same time. "First time seeing an alien space station?" asked Captain Lisa Chen from the seat beside him. She had been his commanding officer back when he was a soldier, before Earth decided they needed diplomats more than fighters. "Yeah," Jake said, still staring out the window. "It's huge. How many people live there? About 50,000 from?" 12 different species," Lisa replied. "And Jake, remember what we talked about? You're not a soldier anymore. You're Earth's voice out here. Every word you say matters." Jake nodded but kept looking at the station. 3 months ago he had been fixing computers on a military base. Then the Zephyrian Empire sent a message to Earth saying they wanted to talk about trade. Earth's government picked Jake because he was good with people and learned languages fast. They gave him 6 weeks of training and told him not to mess up. The transport ship docked with a soft bump. Jake grabbed his small bag and followed Lisa through the airlock. The first thing that hit him was the smell, like flowers mixed with metal. The second thing was the gravity, which felt lighter than Earth's. The third thing was the aliens. A tall, thin creature with blue skin and 4 arms greeted them at the dock. Its voice sounded like music when it spoke. "Welcome to Harmony Point. I am Dock Manager Kelvin 3. Your rooms are ready." Jake smiled and held out his hand. "Hi, I'm Jake Morrison. Nice to meet you." The alien looked at Jake's hand like it might bite him. After a moment, it carefully touched Jake's palm with one of its long fingers. "Interesting human greeting ritual," it said. Lisa elbowed Jake gently. "Remember, not everyone shakes hands," she whispered. They followed Kelvin 3 through wide halls, filled with beings Jake had only seen in training videos. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, others floated in the air, and a few rolled along on wheels. The walls showed pictures of space and distant planets. Everything looked clean and new. "The Zephyrian delegation arrived yesterday," Kelvin 3 explained as they walked. "They have taken the entire diplomatic wing. Very private species, the Zephyrians. They do not socialize with others." "What are they like?" Jake asked. "Tall, pale, very serious. They speak only when necessary and show no emotions. Their princess leads the group. She has never smiled, not once in the 3 days I have known her." Jake felt his stomach twist with nerves. He had studied everything Earth's computers had about Zephyrians, but there wasn't much. They ruled a large part of the galaxy and were known for being smart and powerful. They had never wanted to talk to humans before. Their rooms were nice, with soft beds and windows that showed the stars. Jake unpacked his few things and put on his best diplomatic uniform, simple blue suit that Earth's government said looked friendly but important. "Ready?" Lisa asked from his doorway. "As ready as I'll ever be," Jake said, checking his reflection one more time. The meeting room was at the center of the station. It had a big round table with chairs for different body types. Jake sat down and waited, his hands sweating a little. Lisa sat beside him with 2 other Earth officials who had come along to take notes. The door opened and the Zephyrians walked in. Jake had seen pictures, but seeing them in person was different. They were all very tall, maybe 7 feet, with pale white skin that seemed to glow a little. Their hair was long and silver, and their eyes were large and completely black. They wore long robes that looked expensive. The one in front had to be the princess. She was younger than the others and wore a thin crown made of some kind of crystal. She moved like she was floating instead of walking. When she sat down across from Jake, she looked right at him with those black eyes. "I am Princess Lyra Veltar, 3rd heir to the Zephyrian throne," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. "I speak for the Empire in these negotiations." Jake stood up and smiled. "Hi, Your Highness. I'm Jake Morrison, representing Earth. Thanks for agreeing to meet with us." The princess blinked slowly. The other Zephyrians looked at each other like Jake had said something strange. "You may sit," the princess said after a moment. "We will discuss trade possibilities between our species." For the next 2 hours, they talked about boring stuff like shipping routes and what goods each species could trade. Zephyrians wanted Earth's rare metals. Earth wanted their advanced technology. Jake tried to make jokes a few times to lighten the mood, but the aliens just stared at him. "Why do you make these strange sounds?" Princess Lyra asked during a break. "The sounds that show your teeth." Jake realized she meant his laughing. "Oh, that's laughing. It's what humans do when something is funny or when we're happy." "Funny?" She repeated the word like she was tasting it. Yeah, like when something is silly or unexpected in a good way. "Don't Zephyrians laugh?" The princess looked at her advisors, then back at Jake. "We do not understand this concept. Please explain." "Silly." Jake thought for a moment. "Well, like if I tried to drink water but missed my mouth and poured it on my shirt instead. That would be silly." One of the younger Zephyrians made a small sound that might have been a laugh, but quickly went quiet when the others looked at him. "Interesting," Princess Lyra said. "Humans find mistakes amusing?" "Sometimes, yeah. Nobody gets hurt and it's not too important. We laugh at ourselves a lot." The princess tilted her head. "You laugh at your own failures?" "Sure, it helps us. Feel better about making mistakes? Everyone makes them." The room was quiet for a long moment. Jake wondered if he had said something wrong. "We should continue with trade discussions," one of the older Zephyrians said firmly. But Princess Lyra kept looking at Jake with those big black eyes. "Do you laugh often, Jake Morrison?" "It's pretty often, yeah. Life's more fun that way." "Fun." She said the word slowly. "Another concept we do not understand." Jake grinned. "Well, maybe I can teach you about fun while we're here." The older Zephyrians looked shocked. One of them whispered something to the princess in their own language. She answered back in the same musical voice, but Jake could tell it wasn't happy music. Perhaps Princess Lyra said carefully, "We could arrange cultural exchange sessions to better understand human customs for our trade agreement." "That sounds great," Jake said. "I'd love to learn about Zephyrian culture too." Lisa kicked him under the table, probably thinking he was being too friendly. But Jake had a feeling this was exactly what both species needed. The Zephyrians seemed so serious and sad.
Maybe.
Learning to laugh would help them, and maybe understanding. Their seriousness would help humans too. After the meeting ended, Jake watched the Zephyrians file out of the room. Princess Lyra was the last to leave. At the door, she turned back and looked at him one more time. "Jake Morrison," she said quietly. "Tomorrow we will begin cultural exchange. I am curious about this laughing." Then she was gone, leaving Jake with a strange feeling in his chest. Something about those black eyes made him want to see them light up with something other than curiosity. He wanted to see what Princess Lyra looked like when she smiled. Jake waited in the small meeting room with his hands folded on the table. He had brought a tablet computer loaded with human music, movies, pictures from Earth. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the station's air system. Through the window, he could see ships coming and going from the docking bays. The door opened, and Princess Lyra walked in alone. Jake had expected her advisors to come with her, but she was by herself. She wore a simpler robe today, dark blue instead of the fancy white one from yesterday. "Good morning, Your Highness," Jake said, standing up. "You may call me Lyra," she said, sitting down across from him. "We are here to learn about each other's cultures. Formal titles seem unnecessary." Jake smiled. "Okay, Lyra, and you can just call me Jake." She nodded once. "Jake, I have been thinking about your laughing. I watched recordings of humans from our databases last night. They laugh very often." "Yeah, we do." "Did you find anything interesting?" "Humans laugh when they are happy, when they are nervous, when they are embarrassed, and when they are with friends. Sometimes they laugh when nothing funny has happened at all." Jake chuckled. "That's pretty accurate. Laughing is like a way of connecting with other people. It shows we're comfortable or that we want to be friends." Lyra's black eyes studied his face. "Show me what makes humans laugh." Jake turned on his tablet and found a video of a cat trying to catch a red dot on the wall. The cat jumped and spun around, always missing the dot. After a few seconds, Jake started laughing at the silly cat. Lyra watched the video with a serious expression. The small animal is failing to catch the light dot. Right, but it's funny because the cat is trying so hard and it doesn't know the dot isn't real. The cat's owner is moving the dot with a laser pointer. The human is deliberately frustrating. The animal? Well, when you put it that way, it sounds mean. The cat is having fun too. Look at its body language. Its tail is up and it's playing, not really hunting. Lyra watched the video again. The cat enjoys the impossible task. Exactly. Sometimes doing something pointless can be fun if you're not taking it too seriously. Not taking it seriously, Lyra repeated. This is difficult for Zephyrians to understand. We take all tasks seriously. Jake leaned back in his chair. What do Zephyrians do for fun? Fun, she said the word slowly. We meditate. We study. What? We improve our minds and bodies. That sounds like work to me. Work and improvement are the same thing. A Zephyrian who is not improving is failing. Jake frowned. But what about just enjoying things? Like watching a beautiful sunset or listening to music just because it sounds nice? Lyra was quiet for a moment. We appreciate beauty for its mathematical perfection. We listen to music too. Understand harmonic structures. What about this? Jake played a simple song from his tablet. It was an old Earth song about love and dancing. The melody was happy and light. The mathematical structure is simple, Lyra said after listening. The harmonic progressions are basic. But how does it make you feel? Feel? She looked confused. Yeah. Like when you hear it, what happens inside you? Does it make you want to move or smile or think about something happy? Lyra closed her eyes and listened to the song again. Her long fingers tapped silently on the table, almost like she was keeping time with the music. It creates a sensation I do not understand, she said finally. Something in my chest becomes warm. That's feeling the music, Jake said excitedly. You're connecting with it emotionally instead of just thinking about it. Emotions are considered weakness in Zephyrian society, Lyra said quietly. We are taught to control them from childhood. But you still have them? She nodded slowly, but we do not express them or act on them. Jake felt sad hearing this. That sounds lonely. Lonely. Another word she didn't understand, like being by yourself even when you're with other people. Like no one really knows who you are inside. Lyra's eyes widened a little. Yes, she whispered. That is exactly what it feels like. They sat in silence for a moment. Jake wanted to reach across the table and touch her hand, but he wasn't sure if that was allowed. Tell me about Zephyrian culture, he said instead. What's it like growing up as a princess? Structured. Every day is planned from waking to sleeping. I study governance, military strategy, economics, and diplomacy. I must be perfect because I represent the Empire. What about friends? Zephyrians do not have friends. We have allies, subordinates, and superiors. But who do you talk to when you're sad or excited or confused? We do not discuss personal feelings. Such conversations are considered improper. Shook his head. No wonder you guys seem so serious all the time. You're not allowed to be human. We are not human, Lyra said. I didn't mean literally. I meant you're not allowed to be yourselves. You have to be perfect all the time. Lyra stared at him. Are humans allowed to be imperfect? Of course. We're all imperfect. That's what makes us interesting. Interesting, she repeated. You use that word often, because everything about you is interesting to me. Your culture, your thoughts, the way you see things. Even the way you don't understand emotions is interesting, you find? My ignorance interesting? Not ignorance. Difference. You see the world in ways I never thought of? Like when you talked about music having mathematical structures? I never thought about music that way before. Lyra's face changed slightly. It wasn't quite a smile, but her expression was softer. I would like to learn more about human emotions, she said. But I must ask you not to tell my advisors. They would disapprove. Why? Because emotions make decisions unclear. A leader who feels too much might choose poorly. But feelings also help us understand what's right and wrong. They help us care about other people. Care about other people, Lyra said thoughtfully. Is that why you asked the dock worker about his family yesterday? Jake had forgotten about that. Yeah, I guess. Kelvin 3 mentioned his children, and I was curious about them. My advisors said it was strange that you would waste time on someone unimportant. He's not unimportant. He's a person doing his job. His kids are probably the most important thing in his life. You think about other people's lives, sure, don't you? Lyra was quiet for a long time. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to be a normal Zephyrian, to not have all these responsibilities. But I have never told anyone that before. What? Would you do if you could be normal for a day? I do not know. What do normal humans do? Jake grinned. We hang out with friends. We watch movies. We eat food just because it tastes good, not because it's nutritious. We go for walks without any destination. We laugh at stupid jokes. That sounds pleasant, Lyra said. And for the first time, Jake saw something like longing in her eyes. Maybe. We could try some of those things during our cultural exchanges, Jake suggested. Would you teach me to laugh? I can try. But laughing isn't really something you can teach. It just happens when you're happy or when something strikes you as funny. And perhaps you could teach me to be happy. Jake's heart did a little flip. I'd like that. Over the next few days, they met every afternoon. Jake showed Lyra human movies and music. He told her jokes and stories about Earth. He taught her simple card games and how to make paper airplanes. Lyra told him about Zephyrian art and philosophy. She showed him how to meditate and explained the complex politics of the Empire. She was incredibly smart and saw patterns in everything. But the best moments were when she almost smiled. When she watched a funny movie and her eyes crinkled a little. When she won a card game and looked pleased with herself. When she successfully flew a paper airplane and turned to Jake with something like joy on her face. You are a good teacher, she said after a particularly fun afternoon. You're a good student, Jake replied. And Lyra? Yes. You're not as serious as everyone thinks. You've just needed someone to bring out your playful side. She looked at him with those deep black eyes. No one has ever called me playful before. No one has ever seen the real you before. Something passed between them in that moment. Something that felt like more than just cultural exchange. Jake felt his heart speed up and wondered if Lyra could feel it too. Jake had been on Harmony Point for 3 weeks now. The trade talks were going well, but he found himself looking forward to his afternoon meetings with Lyra more than anything else. Today she had asked to meet in the observation deck instead. Of their usual room, the observation deck was at the top of the station, with huge windows that showed space in all directions. When Jake arrived, he found Lyra standing at the biggest window, looking out at a colorful cloud of gas and stars called the Crimson Nebula. It's beautiful, Jake said, walking up beside her. Yes, Lyra agreed. But I have been thinking about what you said about beauty. You told me humans enjoy things just because they are pretty, not because they are useful. That's right. Sometimes beautiful things don't have to serve a purpose. Lyra turned to look at him. I have been practicing this, looking at things just to enjoy them instead of analyzing them. How's it going? Confusing, she admitted. But also ... pleasant. Is pleasant the right word? Jake smiled. Yeah, that's perfect. She had set up a small table near the window with food from both their cultures. Human sandwiches sat next to Zephyrian fruit that glowed softly blue. I thought we could eat while we talk, Lyra said. Is this what humans call a picnic? Sort of. Usually picnics are outside, but this works too. They sat down and began eating. The Zephyrian fruit tasted like honey mixed with starlight, if starlight had a flavor. Jake had never tasted anything like it. This is incredible, he said. It grows. Only on our homeworld. We consider it sacred because it glows with inner light, like you, Jake said, without thinking. Lyra stopped eating and stared at him. What do you mean? Jake felt his face get warm. It just meant you have this glow about you. Not literally. But there's something bright about you that I noticed from the first day we met. No one has ever said anything like that to me before. Well, it's true. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, watching ships pass by the window. The nebula behind them painted everything in soft red and purple light. Jake, Lyra said quietly, May I ask you something personal? Sure. Do you have a mate on Earth? Jake nearly choked on his sandwich. A mate? You mean like a girlfriend? Or wife? Yes. A romantic partner. No, I don't. Why do you ask? Lyra looked down at her hands. I have been reading about human relationships. The concept is very different from Zephyrian customs. How so? Zephyrians marry for political reasons or to create strong offspring. We do not choose partners based on emotions. It sounds lonely. It is the way things have always been. Reading about human love made me curious. You choose partners because of feelings? Yeah, mostly. We fall in love with someone and want to spend our lives with them because they make us happy. Fall in love, Lyra repeated. I have read this phrase many times, but do not understand it. How does one fall into love? Jake thought about how to explain it. It's like when you meet someone who makes you feel things you've never felt before. Someone who makes you want to be a better person. Someone you can't stop thinking about. Lyra was very quiet. She stared out at the nebula for a long time. Jake, she said finally, I think I may be falling. Jake's heart started beating faster, falling into love with you. The words hit Jake like a shockwave. He stared at her beautiful, serious face and saw something new in her black eyes. Something warm and uncertain and brave. Lyra. I know it is impossible, she said quickly. I am a Zephyrian princess, and you are a human diplomat. Our species have never even been friends before, but these past weeks with you have been the happiest of my life. Jake's mind was spinning. Part of him wanted to jump up and kiss her. Part of him was terrified of the political disaster this could cause. You've been happy? He asked. Yes. When I am with you, I feel light inside, like I am floating. And when you smile at me, my chest gets warm. When you laugh, I want to laugh too, even when I do not understand the joke. Those are definitely signs of falling in love, Jake said softly. Then I have my answer. Lyra turned. To face him fully, why don't you date me, human? She breathed softly. Jake's heart started dancing in his chest. The way she asked, so direct but gentle, made him want to say yes immediately. But he forced himself to think clearly. Lyra, if we dated, what would happen? To you? To me? To our peoples? I do not know, she admitted. But I know that I have never felt anything like this before. You have shown me emotions I did not know I could have. You have made me laugh and dream and hope for things beyond duty. What about your advisors? Your family? The Empire? Expression grew sad. They would not understand. They would say, you have corrupted me with human weakness. Is that what you think? That I've corrupted you? No, she said firmly. You have awakened something in me that was always there but hidden. You have not made me weak. You have made me more myself. Jake reached across the table and took her hand. Her skin was warm and soft. She didn't pull away. Lyra, I need to tell you something. I've been falling in love with you too. Her eyes widened. You have. From almost the first day. You're brilliant and beautiful and kind. You see the world in ways that amaze me. When you almost smile, it's like watching the sun. Come up. Then why have you not pursued me romantically, as human customs suggest? Jake sighed. Because I'm scared. Not of you, but of what loving you might cost. If we're together, it could destroy the alliance between our peoples. Earth needs this trade agreement. Your people might see our relationship as some kind of trick. Or manipulation. Do you think it is manipulation? No. What I feel for you is real. But other people might not believe that. Lyra squeezed his hand. Then we must make them believe. We must show them that love between species is possible. It makes us stronger, not weaker. And if they don't listen, if they decide we're both traitors, then we will face the consequences together. Jake looked into her eyes and saw determination there, and courage and love. Real love, the kind that was willing to risk everything. Lyra, if we do this, there's no going back. Once people know about us, everything changes. I understand. But Jake, I have spent my entire life doing what others expected of me. I have never made a choice based on what I wanted. Please do not ask me to stop now, when I have finally found something worth choosing. Jake felt his resolve cracking. What? Are you saying I am saying that I love you, Jake Morrison? I am saying that I want to try this human custom of dating, even if it terrifies me. I am saying that I would rather risk everything for love than spend my life wondering what could have been. Jake's heart was pounding so hard he could barely think. Everything logical told him this was dangerous, but everything in his heart told him Lyra was right. Okay, he said quietly. Okay, let's try. Let's see what happens when a human and a Zephyrian fall in love. Lyra's face transformed. For the first time since he'd known her, she smiled. Really smiled, with her whole face lighting up like the nebula outside the window. Is this what humans call a first date? She asked. I think it is. Then I have one more question. What's that? What do humans do on first dates? Jake laughed and squeezed her hand. Well, usually they get to know each other better. They talk about their dreams and fears. Sometimes they hold hands. You're already holding hands. Yeah, we are. What else? Jake's heart skipped. Sometimes if they both want to, they kiss. Lyra's cheeks turned slightly purple, which Jake guessed was how Zephyrians blushed. I would like to try that, she said quietly. Jake leaned across the small table. Lyra met him halfway. Their lips touched softly, gently, like they were both afraid the other might disappear. It was the sweetest, most terrifying kiss of Jake's life. When they broke apart, Lyra was smiling again. I understand now why humans write so many songs about love, she said. Jake was about to respond when his communication device beeped urgently. Then Lyra's did the same. They looked at each other with sudden worry. My advisors want to see me immediately, Lyra said, reading her message. Mine too, Jake said, his stomach dropping. Lyra, I think they know. Her smile faded. Then it begins. Jake walked quickly down the hall toward the diplomatic meeting room. His hands were shaking a little, and his mouth felt dry. Behind him, he could hear Lyra's footsteps as she hurried to keep up. They had agreed to face whatever was coming together. Jake. Wait! Lyra called softly. He turned around. She looked scared but determined. Her usual calm mask was gone, replaced by real emotion showing on her face. Whatever happens in there, she said, I want you to know that I do not regret anything. These past weeks have been the best of my life. Jake took her hand and squeezed it. Mine too. And Lyra, no matter what they say, what we have is real. Don't let them convince you otherwise. She nodded and squeezed back. Together, they walked into the meeting room, and Jake's heart sank. The room was packed with people. Zephyrian advisors sat on one side of the table, their faces cold and angry. Captain Lisa Chen and the other Earth officials sat on the other side, looking worried and confused. At the head of the table sat someone Jake had never seen before. A very tall, very old Zephyrian, with silver robes and a crown that looked like it was made of ice. Princess Lyra, the old Zephyrian, spoke with a voice like winter wind. Come sit beside me now. Lyra's hand tightened on Jake's, but she let go and walked to the empty chair next to the old Zephyrian. Jake took a seat with the Earth's delegation. Am High Counselor Vexstar, Princess Lyra's grandfather, and regent of the Zephyrian Empire, the old alien said. I have come because of disturbing reports about my granddaughter's behavior. Captain Chen leaned forward. What kind of reports? Reports that she has been compromised by human emotional manipulation. That she has been meeting secretly with your diplomat, Jake Morrison. That she has been learning human customs that go against everything our society stands for. Jake felt angry. Nobody manipulated anybody. We were having cultural exchanges, just like we agreed. High Counselor Vexstar's black eyes fixed on Jake like ice. Silence. You will speak only when given permission. Actually, Jake said, standing up, I'm a representative of Earth. You don't get to tell me when I can speak. The room went very quiet. Lyra looked at Jake with worried eyes. Jake Morrison, the High Counselor, said slowly, You have corrupted. A princess of the Zephyrian Empire, you have filled her mind with weakness and foolish ideas. She now speaks of emotions and laughter as if they were good things. They are good things, Jake said firmly. Emotions make us stronger, not weaker. They help us care about each other and make better decisions. Emotions cloud judgment. They make leaders soft and unreliable. A princess who feels too much cannot rule effectively. Lyra suddenly stood up. Grandfather, that is not true. Everyone turned to look at her. She was trembling slightly, but her voice was clear and strong. Jake has not corrupted me. He has shown me parts of myself I never knew existed. He has taught me that strength comes from understanding others, not from being cold and distant. Lyra, sit down, her grandfather ordered. No. The word came out like a small explosion. I will not sit down and let you blame Jake for something that is not his fault. What I feel for him is real. What I have learned from him has made me a better person. One of her advisors spoke up. Your Highness, you are not thinking clearly. This human has used psychological warfare on you. He has made you believe you need these emotions. Jake never forced me to feel anything, Lyra said, her voice getting stronger. He simply showed me that it was okay to feel. That emotions are not weaknesses to be hidden, but strengths to be celebrated. High Counselor Vextar's face was like stone. You speak like a human now. This is exactly what we feared would happen. Captain Chen finally spoke up. Excuse me, but what exactly are you accusing our diplomat of? We are accusing him of deliberately seducing our princess to gain political advantage for Earth. We believe this was planned from the beginning. Jake felt his anger boiling over. That's complete nonsense. Nobody planned anything. What happened between Lyra and me happened naturally because we care about each other. Care about each other, the High Counselor repeated with disgust. More human weakness. It's not weakness, Lyra said loudly. It's the strongest thing I have ever felt. Jake makes me want to be better, to do better, to help my people in ways I never considered before. Your people do not need help from human emotions. Maybe they do. Lyra's voice was quiet, but everyone heard her. Maybe we all need help learning how to connect with each other instead of just using each other. The room was dead silent. Jake could see the shock on all the Zephyrian faces. Apparently, questioning their way of life was not something princesses were supposed to do. High Counselor Vextar stood up slowly. That is enough. Princess Lyra, you will return to the homeworld immediately for re-education. This human infection must be removed from your mind. No, Lyra said simply. No, I will not return for re-education. I will not let you erase what I have learned. I will not pretend that love is weakness when I know it is strength. The old Zephyrian's eyes blazed with anger. Dare disobey a direct order from the High Council? They dare to choose my own path? For the first time in my life, Jake's heart was pounding. He could see where this was heading, and it wasn't good. High Counselor Vextar turned to Captain Chen. Your government will hand over Jake Morrison to Zephyrian justice. He will be tried for crimes against the Empire. What crimes? Chen asked. Warfare, corruption of a royal bloodline, attempted manipulation of imperial politics. Jake stood up. I'll go. Jake, no, Lyra said quickly. I'll go, Jake repeated, looking at the High Counselor. But I want a public trial. I want to be able to defend myself according to galactic law. You want to make a spectacle of your crimes? I want to prove that love isn't a crime. That what Lyra and I have is real and good, not some kind of political trick. The High Counselor smiled coldly. Very well, you will have your trial. And when you are found guilty, you will spend the rest of your life in a Zephyrian prison. Your precious Earth will see what happens to those who try to manipulate the Empire. And if I'm found innocent, you will not be found innocent. Jake looked at Lyra. She was staring at him with tears in her eyes, the first tears he had ever seen. A Zephyrian cry. Jake, please do not do this, she whispered. I have to. It's the only way to prove that what we have is real. Captain Chen stood up. The Earth delegation needs time to discuss this. There is nothing to discuss, the High Counselor said. Jake Morrison will come with us, or we will consider it an act of war. Jake felt his stomach drop. He had known this might happen, but hearing it said out loud made it real. Grandfather, please, Lyra said. Jake is a good person. He is done. Nothing wrong. He has stolen the heart of a Zephyrian princess. In our culture, that is the worst crime imaginable. You did not steal anything. I gave it freely. Then you are both guilty. Lyra stood up straighter. If you put Jake on trial, I demand to testify in his defense. You will not be allowed to testify. You're a victim of his manipulation. I am not a victim, Lyra said firmly. I am a woman who has fallen in love. The High Counselor's face twisted with disgust. Love, the most dangerous human disease of all. Jake looked around the room at all the faces watching him. Some looked angry, some looked scared, some looked confused. But when he looked at Lyra, he saw something that gave him hope. He saw courage. Okay, Jake said quietly. I'll come with you. But I want one thing in return. You're in no position to make demands. I want Princess Lyra to be free to make her own choices about her life. If you're going to put me on trial for loving her, then let her decide for herself whether that love was real or manipulation. The High Counselor was quiet for a long moment. Very well, but know this, human. Trial will be broadcast across the galaxy. Every species will see what happens to those who try to corrupt the Zephyrian Empire. You will be an example of human failure. Jake smiled sadly. Or maybe I'll be an example of human courage. As the Zephyrians prepared to leave, Lyra grabbed Jake's hand one last time. I will find a way to help you, she whispered. Just be yourself. Jake whispered back. That's all I need. Then she was gone, and Jake was alone with his thoughts and his fears, wondering if love would be enough to save them both. Jake stood in the center of a huge courtroom that looked like it was carved from a single giant crystal. Representatives from dozens of alien species filled the seats, all watching him with curious eyes. Above them, floating screens showed the trial being broadcast across the galaxy. Jake had never felt so small or so important at the same time. The Galactic Court was neutral ground where disputes between species were settled. Jake wore simple human clothes, a dark suit that Captain Chen had brought him. Across the room, High Counselor Vexstar sat with the other Zephyrian prosecutors, their silver robes gleaming under the bright lights. Judge Kalenth was a tall, golden alien with 4 arms and eyes that seemed to see everything. She had been chosen because her species was known for being fair and logical. This court will decide whether Jake Morrison of Earth committed crimes against the Zephyrian Empire, Judge Kalenth announced. The charges are psychological warfare, corruption of a royal bloodline, and manipulation of imperial politics. Jake's lawyer was a small blue alien named Dex, who specialized in interspecies law. Dex had explained that Jake's best chance was to prove that human emotions were not weapons, but natural expressions of an advanced species. High Counselor Vexstar stood up to make his opening statement. Members of the court, Jake Morrison used dangerous human emotions to corrupt Princess Lyra. He deliberately made her feel things that Zephyrians are not meant to feel. He turned her against her own people and her own culture. This was not love, as humans call it, but psychological warfare designed to give Earth power over the Zephyrian Empire. When it was Dex's turn, the small alien stood on a platform to be seen better. Members of the court, Jake Morrison committed no crime. He simply showed Princess Lyra that emotions are not weaknesses, but strengths. What happened between them? It was natural attraction between 2 intelligent beings who learned to understand each other. The first day of the trial was full of boring testimony from Zephyrian experts who explained how their society worked, why emotions were dangerous. Jake tried to stay awake as they talked about imperial bloodlines and political stability, but on the second day, things got more interesting. Dex called Captain Chen to testify about Jake's character. Jake Morrison is one of the most honest, caring people I have ever known, Chen said from the witness stand. He genuinely cares about everyone he meets, regardless of their species. If Princess Lyra fell in love with him, it was because she saw the same good qualities that everyone else sees. But could he have been pretending to care in order to manipulate her? The prosecutor asked. No way, Chen said firmly. Jake doesn't know how to be fake. It's actually one of his weaknesses as a diplomat. He's too honest for his own good sometimes. Next, Dex called several aliens from Harmony Point who had watched Jake and Lyra together. Kelvin 3, the dock manager, testified that Jake always treated everyone with kindness and respect. He asked about my children, Kelvin 3 said. No other diplomat has ever cared about the personal lives of station workers. Jake Morrison is not the kind of person who would hurt anyone on purpose. But the most important witness was Princess Lyra herself.
Ow.
Jake's heart jumped when she walked into the courtroom. She wore a simple white dress instead of her royal robes, and her hair was loose around her shoulders. She looked beautiful but sad. High Counselor Vexstar tried to stop her from testifying. Your Honor, Princess Lyra is a victim of psychological manipulation. Her testimony cannot be trusted. I am not a victim, Lyra said clearly before the judge could respond. I am a grown woman who made her own choices. I demand the right to speak for myself. Judge Kalenth considered this. The court will hear Princess Lyra's testimony, but we will take her possible manipulation into account. Lyra took the witness stand and looked directly at Jake. Even from across the room, he could see the love in her eyes. Tell the court about your relationship with Jake Morrison, Dex said gently. Jake never tried to manipulate me, Lyra said. Simply showed me that there were other ways to live besides the cold, rigid life I had always known. He taught me that caring about others makes you stronger, not weaker. How did he teach you this? By example. He was kind to everyone he met. He laughed easily and shared his happiness with others. He listened when I talked and cared about my thoughts and feelings. No one had ever treated me like that before. The prosecutor stood up. Princess Lyra, is it not true that Jake Morrison made you question your loyalty to the Zephyrian Empire? He made me question whether some of our ways were truly the best. Ways, Lyra admitted, but that is not disloyalty. That is growth. Did he not turn you against your own family? Lyra's voice got stronger. Jake never told me to turn against anyone. He simply showed me that love and emotion are not crimes. That feeling deeply about something or someone can inspire you to be better, and you believe this human truly loves you? I know he does. Just as I know that I love him. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Many species had never heard a Zephyrian speak so openly about love. High Counselor Vexstar stood up angrily. Your Honor, this proves my point exactly. The princess has been completely corrupted by human emotional disease. Love is not a disease, Lyra said firmly. Love is what makes life worth living. When it was Jake's turn to testify, he walked to the stand with his heart pounding. This was his chance to explain everything, like Morrison, Dex said. Did you deliberately target Princess Lyra for emotional manipulation? No, Jake said clearly. I fell in love with her naturally because she's an amazing person. Smart, kind, curious, brave. Any human would be lucky to know her. Did you know that showing her human emotions would cause political problems? I hoped it wouldn't, but I knew it might. But I also believed that understanding each other better would help our species become friends instead of just trade partners. The prosecutor took over. Mr. Morrison, you admit that you knew your actions might cause problems for the Empire? Yes, but I never meant to cause harm. I meant to build bridges between our peoples. By corrupting their princess? Jake felt anger rise in his chest. I didn't corrupt anyone. I showed Lyra that she didn't have to hide who she really was. And showed her that emotions can be beautiful and powerful and good. You made her weak, Jake said, looking directly at Lyra. I helped her become strong enough to be herself. The trial continued for 3 more days. Experts testified about human psychology and Zephyrian culture. Other species shared their own experiences with emotions and love. The whole galaxy was watching and talking about whether love between species was possible or dangerous. Finally, it was time for closing arguments. The prosecutor argued that Jake had committed emotional warfare and should be punished severely. When Dex stood up for the final argument, members of the court, Dex said, this trial is not really about Jake Morrison. It is about whether love is a crime. It is about whether 2 beings from different species can care about each other without it being manipulation. It is about whether emotions make us weak or strong. Dex gestured toward Jake and Lyra. Look at them. Do they look like victim and criminal? Or do they look like 2 people who found something beautiful together? Jake Morrison did not corrupt Princess Lyra. He freed her to be who she truly was. And in doing so, he showed all of us that love can cross any boundary, bridge any gap, unite any species. If you find Jake Morrison guilty, you are saying that love is a crime. If you find him innocent, you are saying that love is the strongest force in the galaxy. Judge Kalenth called for a recess while the court considered its decision. Jake sat with Dex and Captain Chen, his hands shaking with nerves. Whatever happens, Chen said quietly, you've already won something important. What's that? Look around the courtroom. Look at all these different species watching and listening. And thinking about love. You've started something bigger than just your trial. When court resumed, Judge Kalenth stood to announce the decision. This court finds Jake Morrison innocent of all charges, she said. The evidence shows that what occurred between him and Princess Lyra was genuine affection, not manipulation. Furthermore, this court recognizes that emotions and love are not weaknesses, but fundamental aspects of advanced civilizations. The courtroom erupted in cheers and arguments. Jake felt like he might faint with relief, but the biggest surprise came next. Princess Lyra stood up in the gallery. I have an announcement, she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. I hereby renounce my claim to the Zephyrian throne. I choose love over duty, freedom over obligation, and Jake Morrison over everything else. High Counselor Vexstar looked furious, but before he could speak, something unexpected happened. Several younger Zephyrians in the gallery stood up and began clapping. Then more joined them. Soon, half the Zephyrian delegation was applauding Lyra's courage. Jake ran to Lyra and swept her into his arms. As they kissed in front of the entire galaxy, he realized that their love had done something amazing. It had shown everyone that caring about each other was not weakness, but the greatest strength of all. 6 months later, Jake and Lyra were married on Harmony Point, with representatives from 50 different species attending.